The season so far review show is brought to you and supported by Saltire Energy, the global market leader in specialist drilling equipment rental, and also by Craig International, a truly global company with 10 offices strategically placed around the world. The future of global procurement is right here.
Hi everybody, how you doing? A very warm welcome to Ali Beg AB TV. This is the season so far review show. This is where I have brought on some prominent Aberdeen fans to discuss the season so far and what a brilliant start it has been as well. Just to introduce tonight's guests, Richard Wilkinson is here, as is Terry McDermott, all the way from New Orleans. And I'm delighted to say that Kelly Forest, former Aberdeen women's team captain, is also joining us. So without further ado, let's get on with the show. Hi everybody, it's great to see you. Thank you so much for taking the time to come on the show tonight. Right, I'm going to fire straight in, and Kelly, I'd like to come to you first. So did you have any expectations for Aberdeen ahead of the new season?
Yeah, well, I think after the last couple of seasons, it needed to be like steady the ship, right? It's been a bit turmoil, managers in and out, and I think, the new appointment will definitely do that. I think, yeah, Aberdeen back to where they should be, top two, three, and so far so good, right? So that for me is, it's more behind the scenes, I think, that's been the
Terry,
important thing is getting someone in with credentials.
Sorry, Kelly, I just lost you for a second there. Please carry on.
No, sorry, I was just saying, getting someone in to steady the ship after a bit of an up and down last couple of seasons. So yeah, right person to take the job on.
Terry, same question to you.
What was the question? So I've got musician brain, so you'll have to.
Don't you worry, Phil. I know you're preparing for a gig tonight. I fully understand. Been in your shoes, believe it or not.
Yeah.
What were your expectations ahead of the season?
A lot, actually. I expected a lot. I had a good feeling about Yumi Thielen coming in. I think he came with a big reputation. I don't think anyone can shy away from the fact that even with the awfulness that we saw last season, there were actually moments where we saw our talents being put to good use, and we really do have a clutch of very talented players in that squad. So there was always the suspicion that if the right guy with the right ideas came in and a few additions, that we might actually gel into something that that could put some points on the board. I don't think I quite expected what we've got. But it is just so pleasing, and the more we can get up Chris Boyd's nose, the better. So this is all my Christmases at once.
Richard, do you need a prompt for the question? Are you okay?
Sorry, what was win the lot. No, and that's a phrase I see a lot on social media and on fan boards, and again, it's the roller coaster ride of Aberdeen. I think Terry said it the last time that we chatted, of going, you come into these things with an expectation. It's a brand new season, brand new start, and I mean, as I said, you try and temper that expectation of going, if we got here, that would be pretty good, but we're up here, and that's brilliant. And as I said, I'm sitting here going, we could be second this year. Let's whisper it just now, but we could be second this year, and that would be amazing.
Richard, as a fan, were you of the mindset that the manager was going to need time to implement his style of play? And were you the type of fan that was prepared to give him that time?
So I don't believe that it does take time. I think that's it's a convenient story to tell to manage people's expectations. You don't get time. I mean, look at Neil Lennon. You get found out pretty quickly. And I think that, where, again, I think from our perspective, and so you only need to look as far as Neil Warnock as going, you just don't get time. Sorry, Terry, I've triggered you there. So I think my hope with this process is that Dave and the Football Monitoring Board, should it still exist or whether it's in hiatus, have finally learned from how, this recruitment process, how to do it. And hopefully we won't need to consider another manager for at least another 3 years. But hopefully lessons have been learned. It's first and foremost, it's a man manager, it's a leader, it's a guy with a philosophy, and a guy that can, sit down with players and, whether that, with all players with all sorts of characteristics, with all sorts of insecurities, with all sorts of needs, and let the coaches, and we seem to have a lot more of them as well at the moment, let the coaches do their stuff, but be the manager that is just an inspiration and a leader. And it's sad to say, I know we'll come on to talk about Peter leaving, so he's the exception to the rule, but it's sad to say I don't think that we've had managers that have been inspirational leaders. But it looks like with this guy, with Jimmy, sorry, I can't get past calling him Jimmy, but I think with Jimmy, I think he's got something about him, and hopefully Dave and the FMB have realized what it is about him. And my only hope is that if a certain Louis Lopez is watching this, give Jimmy a call, go and have a beer, and let the magic happen again. Because I genuinely think, and I know that everybody has strong opinions, but I genuinely think he could even get a song out of at the moment, despite what his issues are. And I would love to see that happen. But in answer to the question, I don't think a manager does need a lot of time to inspire and to lead. And I think I think Jimmy's done such an amazing job so far. I can't wait to see where it takes us.
Kelly, just let me sort of carry on from that Duke chat that Richard's just mentioned there. First and foremost, have you been surprised by his actions?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's a bit far-fetched. I think going back to the point though about a good leader and a good manager, I agree with that. I don't necessarily agree that you shouldn't give managers time, because I think implementing your own change, not just on the pitch but everywhere, does take time, and I think clubs are guilty of not giving managers enough time. But as you say, you've brought in someone with a huge amount of experience, and has managed at a high level. And I think that almost controversial thing of bringing in maybe ex-players really early on in their career to take on a huge job, that we see clubs do time and time again. We still see it in the Scottish Premier League just now and everywhere. And I personally, I'm not in agreement with that. I think you need to have experience, and with that, it means that you can reduce that time to change, and you've got a sustainable manager. I often think that sometimes ex-players sound like a good idea, but is it sustainable? And I'm not sure.
Terry, what's your own thoughts on it?
I think if you listen to the pundits that were when we were talking about bringing in a new manager, I mean, they were absolutely aghast that we weren't just falling over ourselves to put in Neil Lennon or insert name of another Scottish manager from the merry-go-round, which, you can understand it to some degree. Ex-players, they're trying to get their mates in jobs. But I am really, really, really do think that Jimmy Thielen has shown us the truth of that, which is, if we're looking to be a European club, we're looking to be a top European 100 club, which I think should be our goal. I think the club's right to do that. Then we don't want to be playing we don't want to play down. We want to play up. We don't want to be playing down to the Scottish League. We want to play in a brand of football that takes us through the Scottish League and also into Europe. And I think this appointment looks like it's done that. I always mess up his name. Svelter Hirsen Nielsen Gurgen, our midfielder, Norwegian. That guy. He's been an absolute revelation, and that's why I can't remember his name. But I don't know what it is about his name. It just won't go in. Everyone's like Sveltfield. Yeah, him anyway. He's great. And I think that illustrates the difference, which is Jimmy Thielen came in. He'd already assessed the players clearly, because he knew what the hell he was doing from day one. And he instantly saw a position where if he put a guy in that slot, he was going to be able to dictate his style of play and drag players into that mindset. And I think he's done that tremendously successfully. And I think that really indicates that this guy has a clear vision, and that vision is now being relayed to the players. So again, whisper it, yes, but why isn't second achievable? Rangers look like an absolute shambles. And I'm sure they're not going to stay that way. I don't think they will. I think that's just the reality. The budgets probably won't lie in the end. But with the way we're setting ourselves up to play, I don't think we've anything to be scared of. And there is a clear vision. We actually look like a team that plays with an identity. And it's been a long time since any manager managed to implement that in any squad of players we've had.
So, Richard, following on from that, what would you say is the marked difference in our style of play now to what it was, say, before Peter Leven actually took charge of the team?
Better, fitter, faster. Playing the ball on the ground, some exquisite passing. One of the goals that we'll talk about a bit later on, just some brilliant passing, pretty to watch, more attacking, more chances. I think, Leven got us back to basics, and I think Thielen has taken it with arguably better players, but with the players that he inherited and the players that he's brought in, brought in a better style of football. The players look fitter than they've ever been. I've always said, looking at, but I think particularly when you compare yourself to kind of Celtic or some of the European teams last season or whatever, they always looked faster. They always looked slicker. They always had and I just think that perhaps with Scottish managers, perhaps with, the previous incumbents, they maybe didn't sort of put that emphasis on some of the stuff that Thielen is doing. As I said, better, fitter, faster, better players, fitter players, faster players. It's just beautiful to watch. And, where I'm sure we'll possibly talk about the Ross County game at the weekend just past there. Going for it for 99 minutes or however it is, going for 3 points, not stopping, not sitting back. Just the Dons playing and, attitude that I think we've been screaming out for so many years.
Kelly, as an ex-professional yourself, when a new manager comes in, when a new coach comes in and tries to implement a new style of play, how quickly does it take you guys to adapt to that change of philosophy? Or do you buy into it straight away?
Yeah, I think it comes down to the person in charge, like we've kind of touched on, the belief and the confidence in which they install across the squad. Yeah, things take time, but if you've got a professional outfit in front of you, then, you're used to adapting in football all the time. And I think, the way you prepare for games week in, week out are typically the similar routines. So, it's just a case of, working that routine into the squad and, making sure that the philosophy is clear to the team. And I think in previous seasons, there's been comments, surrounding the squad about, they look a bit lost, a bit disjointed. And I think, it's about the implementation of that philosophy. And again, getting behind it and showing confidence. And I think, that's obviously evident so far in this season with this squad.
Terry, we've been quite shrewd in the transfer market up until when the window shut. You mentioned our good friend Nielsen already.
That's him.
That's the one. Are you content with the squad that we've got at this moment in time?
I think I'm going to echo a sentiment which is all over Aberdeen chat forums, and it's become a bit of a meme, which is, maybe we could do with a right winger and a left-sided centre back. And you can see that we were linked to a few players. There's the Australian kid that went off to PSV for a ridiculously low fee, and there was Ibe. How do you pronounce his name? Ibe Bowett.
Bowett, yeah.
Bowett. Is it Ibane? Ibane?
Bowett.
Yeah, well, the first part though, is it Ibane? Ibane? I don't know. I'm not doing very well with names today. I'm just going to stick to the football. But it would have been nice to have cover in those positions. Thielen obviously thinks that he can get a tune out of Shayden Morris, and it would appear that he can.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, we're getting opposition fans and certainly the pundits in the media, the darlings of Celtic and Rangers, are pointing out that who have we actually played? Well, you can only play what's in front of you, and I would say that up to this point, we've shown a vast improvement against these teams compared to how we played against them last season. These teams were problems for us on occasions. So I think the squad looks good. I will say this: the midfield. I was thinking about this the other day. We've got Shinny, we've got our Norwegian friend. You'll notice I skipped his name there. Nielsen, Svilte Nielsen, going for it. We've got those two, and they seem to have formed a really healthy partnership that you would imagine that the likes of Clarkson is going to enjoy a little freedom in front of them. But we've also got Palaversa. I mean, this is a guy that was on Man City's books for 7 million. We've got Dante Polvara, who honestly I love Dante. My son's a huge fan of Dante, being an American, my son being half Scottish, half American. And he was really starting to show a physical presence. He was really starting to show he's a classy footballer, Dante. I mean, I know he got a lot of criticism when he first came to the club, but he's grown into that and he really looks like a player now. So when was the last time we had that much depth in those positions? I mean, we've got a real option. So I would say yes, happy with the squad. I wouldn't have complained if we'd maybe had a winger to chase Morris, because we've yet to see what he's going to do against tougher teams, and it would be nice to someone chasing that position. But as it stands, I would say we look stronger than we have for many a year.
Yeah, Richard, do you agree or disagree?
Yeah, I have to agree. I mean, I would say, I mean, very impressed with all the signings so far. I think the jury's still out on Antti Palaversa because we haven't really seen much of what he can do. But that's, it's said that's literally as a result of the depth of squad that we have. I think as Terry says, we still need what I would call another versatile winger. So in the vein of Johnny and oh my word, I'm
Niall?
having a senior moment.
Svilte Nielsen, that's his name.
Niall McGinn, in terms of being able to switch around and what have you. Again, Terry's saying about Shaden Morris, Jimmy getting a tune out of him. I think it's still chopsticks at the moment, but as I said, there's improvement there. I'll begrudgingly admit that, but we'll see what happens. I'd like to see a right back, because I think if Devlin goes and gets injured, then we're possibly in a bit of trouble. And it'll be interesting to see what happens in January with Nisbet if he's only on loan there. So hopefully we're working on a plan A or a plan B. If I think he's only, from what I've read and understood, he's only there at the moment until Janury. So
no, he's on a season-long loan.
That's even better. I think in terms of the again, I might be getting ahead of myself here. The two players that have caught my eye in particular is Topi. I think Keskinen is just beautiful on the ball.
Great footballer.
Genuinely a fantastic signing. And I think the kind of understated, apart from one or two minor mishaps, but Gavin Malloy in defence, I'm gonna say it, I think he's probably our best defender since Pollock. And I think, again, genuinely really interesting to see how his development will be. I think he's a fantastic defender and has all the qualities that potentially, as I said, that we've been missing over the past couple of seasons with let's just say an inconsistent defense. But yeah, I'm loving it. Genuinely, the recruitment has been fantastic.
Kelly, I'd like to, we touched on him just a moment ago about Peter leaving, how he was able to steady the ship at the tail end towards last season, and really kind of turned our fortunes around and got us playing a brand of football that we were all dying to watch. How important do you think it was for the club to have retained his services?
Yeah, I think that's massive. I think that'll also, I think it's massive because in any change, there's always disruption, but having someone that's kind of in and around, knows the players, knows the setup, will be, a huge assistant to Felin in charge. And I think that, typically you would probably get ship off the backroom staff and anyone else that was related to the previous chapter. So yeah, I think it's massive, and it'll be massive for the players as well. They'll have settled into that kind of role. And I think, Felin coming in with, an unfamiliar environment, you can, having Pierre leaving there to support you and guide you through that is huge. Yeah, really important.
Terry, let me come to you about Bojan Miovski, because obviously we can't ignore the fact that Bojan left us. But I have to say, in my lifetime as an Aberdeen fan, which is now coming up for 45 years. I can't.
Bloody hell, Ali.
Yeah, we don't really talk about that much more anymore, to
Okay.
be honest with you. I can't remember a player getting that sort of send off from the fans in all my time as an Aberdeen fan. Some folk have commented
Yeah.
about Steve Archibald getting a fantastic send off, but that was a little bit before my time. But I can't remember that happening at all. Can you?
I think maybe Russell Anderson, if I remember. I think he
Okay.
got a
Yes,
very
good shout.
favourable send off. And I think when Johnny Hayes went, he'd really tried to ensure that we got a transfer fee.
Yes.
So I think there was a lot of positivity. But I mean, if you're talking about the grown men weeping, and the kind of, you know, being thrown in front of the fans, I mean, it was a wonderful spectacle. I've actually watched him play for Girona in a couple of games already, and I think it's just a universal feeling from Aberdeen fans that they want to see this guy do well, because it's not just the goals he scored. That guy played football with a smile on his face the whole time. He was a great. I know it's an often trotted out cliche, but he was a great ambassador for the club on social media. He was so incredibly positive. I think there was a genuine affection on his part for the club and the club means something to him, and I think that was reciprocated. But yeah, his general attitude on the pitch as well. There was just a positivity about the way he played football. You know, even when we were not necessarily playing at our best, his head never went down. He's always busting a gut. And those little things, they actually do rub off on the fan base. You appreciate that guy is playing for the shirt. So it's a perfect recipe. I'm not gonna suggest you'll see that very many times. I mean, you think about even the likes of Hans Hillhouse, you know, one of my favorite players of all time, if not my favorite player of all time. And you know, it was quite an acrimonious departure when he left Aberdeen, and he's still thought of very highly, and he talks about the club very positively. But there wasn't those kind of scenes. So I think it's just a perfect recipe where his exit gave us a large transfer fee. It was very positive the way he'd acted when he was at the club. So it was, all the pieces were there for it to be a lovely handshake and a thank you and goodbye. You don't often get that. Look at the situation with Duke. You know, a player I love to watch him play. I think he's an X-factor player. He's an exciting player. He can do things other players can't. But he's also mercurial, and getting him to perform all the time was obviously not something we managed to do. And now look at the way he's exiting. You know, he's gone from hero to zero in a very, very short space of time. So
have faith. Have faith.
I'm just going to say, I want him. I've been quite open about this. I want him. You know, give him a butt tray and a pat on the back. He'll probably like the butt tray. Give him a butt tray and a pat on the back, and say, look, just apologise to the fans. Get your head down, work for a season, and you'll get that transfer you want.
And look how Vinny's been embraced as well. I mean, you know, Vinny for a long time was seen as a problem child, and attitudinally and stuff like that. And you know,
I never believed that. I never actually.
I didn't either. I kind of saw, and again, it goes back to a manager who can manage all types of players, and even back to Derek McInnes, you kind of felt like he had his favourites and he had his type of player that he wanted to. I'm not saying that it was controlling or anything like that, but there was a type and a style of management where I sit there and gotta go, it's like in life. If you work in any business or whatever, you have loads of different people, loads of different attitudes, loads of different lifestyles, loads of different beliefs and cultures, and you have to keep everybody happy. You might not be able to do that, but the best and most successful managers are the ones that know what their team needs. And as I said, I think with Jimmy, we've absolutely got it. I just, you know, if the two of them could just sit down and we can make that happen through the power of Ali Beg, ABTV, then, you know...
It's effectively a done deal now. It's effectively a done deal. Maybe Kelly actually would be better speaking to this point, because the influence that the man at the top, the guy in the chair, the guy responsible for the decisions, I mean, is it that big? Is it that big a variable that it can really have that much of an effect on the way you're playing football? You know, personally, for instance, Duke, you know, looked happy at one point and then was very unhappy at another point. I mean, can we put that down to a manager? Is Jimmy Thielen gonna, you know, is he going to be the guy if Duke came back? Would he be the guy to get a tune out of him?
Yeah, I think so. I think you see it all the time. There's moments well, throughout football all the time, there's ups and downs, and it's got to be an environment that the manager's got to create an environment for you to thrive. And there are players that are going to, you know, give you attitude and be difficult. And I'm not saying that is the case here, but there is obviously problems. And then you've got to ask yourself the question, well, are you worth my time as a manager? Are you
Mm.
causing disruption with the rest of the players in the team? Are you that good type thing? And maybe you are, and people do get away with it, unfortunately. And then it's maybe about managing other players around that player. So yeah, that the question is, do they see potential in the player? And is it worth it? The squad are doing really well. Maybe last season not so much, so he maybe had a little bit more freedom to be slightly more difficult. I'm not saying again that is the case. It's obviously not smooth sailing. But I do think that good managers and good people management can bring the best out in anyone. And that's maybe, like I say, the differentiator, like I touched on at the start, people that have been in management or people management positions, to go, okay, I can change this. And it's not a case of necessarily maybe roasting someone or doing an impatient kind of response to this behavior. It's, I see potential and I can get the best out of this player. It happens all the time.
Yeah.
All the
I
time.
mean, actually, I should add as well that when I went to the game between Atlanta and Aberdeen on the winter training camp when Goodwin was manager, I actually met Duke, and I have to say he was a lovely, lovely kid, just an absolutely lovely lad. He actually struck me as quite shy. He actually struck me as quite quiet. And I've thought since then that I can't really see this guy being a disruptive influence if he came back. I don't see him as being some sort of loudmouth that's going to, disrupt the group. If anything, I think it's more about him maybe struggling to come back in. If he did come back in, maybe would struggle to come back in and get over it mentally. I think he's maybe a little more sensitive to the world around him than we're giving him credit.
If anybody knows where Duke is, get in touch with Terry on social media. He's our United Nations special envoy. He's going to make this happen. He's going to get Duke and Jimmy in a room, and there's going to be beautiful music in terms of getting him back on the pitch.
I pledge this Hotel Bentley coffee cup from the real New Orleans. I pledge this. Find Duke, and this is yours. Find it. Find him.
You guys paint a lovely picture, let me tell you. Eh? What a vlog that would make, by the way. Richard,
Hi.
what has been the standout performance for you so far?
Oh, see, I hope you were going to come back to the fond farewell, and I was going to say Ryan Jack, Scott Wright, and Connor Barron, but too soon.
Don't
Too soon.
there. Don't go there.
Okay. Standout performance. I'm going to say Ross County. I had a look at all the goals, and there were some great goals, and I'm sure we're going to go and talk about them in a bit. But for me, that was a roller coaster ride of a game to watch. I thought Mitov's save was amazing. I thought that they had plenty of chances. They could have scored. We could have scored. Offsides, controversial decisions, some bang average refereeing. But, I think, 99, there is nothing like a 90-something minute winner in extra time. And, I know that the fans got a bit of criticism from certain sections of our support for invading the pitch. But, that's what you want to see. I would obviously we'd love to be banging in 3, 4, 5, 6 goals, but you want to see the 3 points. You want to see a win. We were the better team, and it was really enjoyable to watch. And as far as I think the best test so far this season, I think it was probably our best test. And Ross County had a fair pummeling, I think, from a certain Glasgow team the week before, or certainly very recently. So they were still smarting, but That would be my pick, I think, just for the resilience and the ability to go and get the 3 points, which I suspect in previous seasons we wouldn't necessarily have done.
Can I just add as well? Can I just add that I think that criticism of the Aberdeen fans celebrating that last minute winner is utter Scottish media hypocrisy. Utter hypocrisy, because I don't know how many times we've seen Celtic fans pour on the pitch when they've scored a 97th minute goal, and all the Rangers fans in the media have very short memories with Rangers fans jumping up and down on the disabled section, I think, at McDermott Park when they scored a last minute winner and effectively invading the pitch and taking down that section. So it's very interesting that when it's us that gets the win, it's a problem. But when they do it, well, that's just football.
Yeah. Kelly, can I come to you? What was your standout performance?
I was going to say the same. I think, Ross County have taken an absolute, roasting the week before. And I think, Don Curry would have gone in and, absolutely annihilated County for that reason. And so to go away to Dingwall, crowd on top of you, really tight pitch, I think for me, albeit, last minute winner, brilliant, and it adds to the occasion. But I think, you've gone up there 1-1-0. For me, they're actually probably the most rewarding because, yeah, tough place to go. Lots going on in the game. And probably, like you say, in terms of, last season, maybe these are the games that, they weren't getting the results from. And these are the games that Aberdeen should be winning. If you're looking for top positions, there's no doubt about it. Home or away, you're beating County. But so I think it was massive, and I think it's massive for momentum as well. Going into next week, the next fixture, it keeps that momentum. It doesn't break up, and you would come away from that game really disappointed if you didn't win it. And so, thinking about the bigger picture, the games before, what County, the expectations Don Cowie would have had on them was massive, which would have made it even harder for Aberdeen.
I'm also going to go with the Ross County game. So, Terry, you're going to make it a full house for us?
Actually, I was going to go with Kilmarnock because Derek McInnes, I think most Aberdeen fans would respect him as a manager. We know that he sets up his teams very well. We know that his team are very well informed on the strengths and weaknesses of the opposition. I kind of expected that we would see a stop and start game where they're trying to break up the play and it would be a bit dirgy. And I think in patches it was. But I really liked the way that we were businesslike about it. That we didn't really have to break out of second gear for long periods, and we were patient with the ball. We recycled the ball. There was a lot of patience in the way we played. There wasn't anybody freaking out about maybe losing the ball. It was just a lot more of assured performance against a Kelly team than I think we had at any point last season. So that for me was a real sign that there's improvement, that we're going to be more in fact, I'll give you an example. It's like, how many times did we watch a Barry Robson team, for example? They were fantastic at soaking up the pressure. We saw that in Europe. They could soak up the pressure and hit you on the break. But oh my God, did we run out of ideas when you gave us the ball for more than 2 minutes? And we felt hurried, and there'd always be the sloppy pass, and we didn't look all that great in the final third. Well, there's a patience about the way we played in that game where I thought, no, this is great. We're taking our time, we're working it out. And that for me was a sign that there is real improvement.
To finish off, guys, I'd like to ask you one final question. Richard, your goal of the season so far?
It's a tough one. I've got 7 down here and I don't know which one to pick. Can I pick 2?
Go ahead.
Vinny's header against St Mirren.
Yeah.
I just think that was just beautiful and just perfect. And as I said, I know that Terry mentioned it. I've got such a lot of time for Vinny, just lovely. And I'm going to say Topi's debut goal was just a beautiful, lovely passing extravaganza. They put the ball around and it was just a great goal and the reaction was great. But there's really loads to choose from, and I hope I haven't picked somebody else's choice.
Kelly, where are you going?
I'm going to say be a bit different in terms of the importance of the goal as opposed to the type of goal. And I think going back to County, I think, last minute winner, massive game, and also new signing just in the door, huge boost for his confidence, Kevin Nisbet.
Okay. Terry?
I thought Topi Keskinen's goal was great. I think McGrath scored a beautiful goal as well. I'm trying to remember which game it was, but
I was kind
actually,
of
I
hoping
mean,
you weren't going to remember that because that was my goal. Jimmy,
yeah, I think
he's
McGrath
right,
again.
the chip, the chip.
McGrath's
The chip
yeah, is
against
that the
East
chip? Yeah,
Kilbride.
yeah. That was absolutely sublime, and it just shows you what a talented footballer he is. I mean, he's one of those guys that's got that. He's got that in the back of his brain. He can look up and see that, and other players don't see it. But I'm gonna be even more controversial. My goal of the season so far, because I say it should have been a goal, is when Bojan Miovski casually looked up and absolutely peppered the bar from about 30 yards. That's my moment of the season. I just couldn't believe how casually he thumped that and was like, "Oh well, it didn't go in. On we go." What a player, what a player.
A non-goal of the season.
Non-goal of the season, Ali.
So
It's a new
far.
section. You're welcome.
Brilliant. Guys, we're going to leave it there because unfortunately we've run out of time. Thank you so much for coming on. I've loved having you all on the show, and take good care of yourselves, and hopefully I'll see you all again very soon. Thanks, guys.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
Sam Free.
Many thanks to Richard, to Kelly, and to Terry for joining me tonight. I really hope you enjoyed the show. Don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe to the channel as well, and I'll see you all very soon. Take care. Bye for now. Stand free.